All right. Okay, good. So now we're live. Facebook, YouTube, IG. Hello. Hi, Mary. Happy New Year to you. So,
New
yeah,
Year.
I know, New Year. And it's so interesting because I mean, do you even feel like it's a new year?
Listen, for me, I really do. I
Yeah.
think though, I think something, I don't know, something with the stars is like aligning me or something because I just feel a lot more light. Like my
Mhm.
hard work paid off and I'm feeling good right now. So
Yeah.
I do feel it's a new year in a sense. But what about you? I'll explain why in a sense later, but what
Yeah.
about you?
I feel for me, I still feel like I'm in the middle of releasing a lot of stuff from before.
Mhm.
I definitely feel like leading up to January 1st, I was going through like some major transitions here, and therefore like we were just talking before we got on live, we were talking about, fasting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I do, so it doesn't feel entirely like a new year yet, but I definitely have set my intentions, for
Mhm.
this year. So yeah. So in
My
that
birth
in that way.
my birthday is also in December, and I think I just finished my Saturn return, so that could be it too, because I'm
Yes.
feeling good. Like it's a completely different person from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So good. But I kind of love that you said like you're still like in the like completion of those things because for those of you who don't know, I do 2022 kind of yearly reviews, and a lot
Mhm.
of the things that kind of got brought up this year, I noticed that everything is a flow, right? You have to still be attached to last year in some sense to learn your lessons and to incorporate them into the new year. And I felt
Mhm.
like a lot of my clients are like, okay, new year, clean slate. And it's like, no, you don't want to let go of anything you learned. Like you had that year for a reason. I guess,
Mhm.
and that was way too positive for me. That ended really positive. But I love that you said that
Yeah.
because you really is. It's a continuation. It's never like a clean cut kind of a situation.
Right. So have you ever been one of those people who previously did resolutions
Of
and all of
course.
that? Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And they never happened. Like it just never worked out for me. And the past 6 years, to be honest, I stopped with resolutions and started doing like quotes and living by quotes. And those
Mhm.
really helped me overcome some big hurdles that I was experiencing. And I always chose the exact quote, like that would be perfect for that year somehow. But one of my favorite was let your faith be bigger than your fear, and I just started living by that for a full year, and the amount of growth that I had that year was mind-blowing. So I do that, but
Mhm.
now I'm starting to add atomic habits. That's all. I just want to develop habits, and we're
Mhm.
starting small. I'm thinking
Yep.
about today and this week and this month, nothing more than that, because
Yeah.
that's where I get lost in it.
Exactly. Oh, I
How do
love it.
how do you do that? Or
Love
how
it.
do
Love
you
it.
work?
Well, see, I've never really been someone about resolutions. I've always, in the past, have just started things that it really didn't matter when. It was more like, okay, I think this is the right time.
I
It could
love
have been any
that.
time during the year, and I just kind of do it. I'm one of those people who kind of jump, just
That's
fully in with
good.
both feet. So, but the thing is, there's been plenty of times where I've done that, but then things can fizzle out really, really quickly.
Mhm, mhm,
So that's something I think like working up into the energy of this year for me has been really important to kind of see, okay, well, how can I make things more sustainable? Right.
exactly.
And, exactly, I know.
Yes.
So the thing is, it's like looking at not just like the physicality of everything, where it's like, okay, if I like with Atomic Habits, they talk about, tacking on something to something that you already do,
Mhm,
right? Because it becomes a cue. So it's like, besides looking at stuff like that, I'm also have been looking at, well, what's the energy behind why I can't do this or keep
mhm,
keep something up,
mhm.
right? Like what is it? And and that talk about getting real with yourself,
No,
right?
seriously,
I
it
think
hurts.
I think I've seen even with my clients, but like for something like this, I really, really focus on like my whole embodiment part. So I kind of figured out it's like, well, if I don't really believe that I'm that type of person that would keep something up, like I don't really see it, I don't really feel it, then you're not going to. Like it's almost like, who are you kidding?
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
So
exactly.
we have to kind of look at it like, okay, one, if I have a particular resolution or goal, why do I want to do it? And can I actually picture myself as that person who's
Mm-hmm.
going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's so important to be able to do that,
Yeah.
because then you don't have anything. Then it's when you can't see the end result and you can't see yourself embodying it, you can't see the path it takes to get there in the first place. So I can
Mhm.
see how that's a thing. And I had read somewhere where it's like, even just how you talk about yourself is so important. For example, smokers, like a lot of the times when smokers want to quit smoking, it's hard to quit smoking because you say, I am a smoker. I've been smoking for 10, 20, 30 years. I am a smoker. But the moment you just start saying, I'm not a smoker anymore, that energy is so different. I am not a smoker is so demanding. And you're like, okay, I'm not a smoker. You feel it. And that's the
Yeah.
same thing as almost adding or taking away. You kind of have to, like you said, like kind of trick your mind in a sense and start stacking things up for yourself. And I do a lot of psychological tricks on myself.
Hmm.
How do you start the embodiment process?
So the thing is, it's like if I have been hesitating or procrastinating on
Mm-hmm.
something, you know, that's and I know and I realize it, right? Like I'm very, very aware
Mm-hmm.
of it. I just kind of go, okay, well, what's really, you know, well, one, I ask myself, what's really been holding me back? And like and go, what excuses have I been giving myself? And in
Mm-hmm.
the past, a lot of it, good morning, Christina. In the past, a lot of it has been around, well, I don't have time, you know, and we do this a lot, right? Like, I don't have the time for this. I don't have the bandwidth for this. And granted, I'm not saying to overburden yourself, but like if there's something that you really, really want, it's like how badly do you want it?
Yeah.
And you know, and so I have had to ask myself a lot of the same questions I ask my clients around certain things. And, you know, and then you just have to take the action because once you just start taking action instead of mulling it over,
Mm-hmm.
you know, now you're already in it. Your body is actually feeling what it is that you're doing. So whether that's
Mm-hmm.
working out, whether that's changing up how you eat, you know, those are the two big things are all, you know, that people focus
Always.
on at the beginning of the year. So
Yeah.
it's just it's really important to just stop with the excuses, stop with the, oh, well, I have to overthink and overplan, right? You just start with the small steps because you always talk about
Mhm.
baby steps and that's
Oh
not any
yeah.
different than anything
Oh
else.
yeah.
But stop making the excuses. That's the
It,
hard part.
yeah.
Stop making the excuses.
I say that to you. You always have to ask yourself, and you're like what you said, how bad do you want it? And if you don't want it bad enough to adjust, to be honest with yourself, then truly this is where I come in and I'm like, I don't care about your excuses or your complaints at that point. And then you have to be honest with yourself and hold yourself accountable. So when I say that to people, I also say that about myself. I give myself a day to complain if I need to. If I'm feeling
Mhm.
it, sometimes you got to let it out. But after that day, you either change it, accept it, or move forward. Like there's nothing else you can do. So you have to be honest with yourself.
Mhm.
And I guess even it goes even deeper than being honest with yourself. It's knowing yourself. Do you know yourself well enough to be
Yeah.
honest with yourself? Or are
Mhm.
you still in your own programmed world where you may
Yeah.
not know the difference of what you're experiencing or being taught versus who you are as a person. And who you are as a person dictates what that next step is for you. Because for me, I'm not a planner. I'm trying so hard. I am trying so hard, but I've learned I have to make it fun. I have to make it okay. I'm going to sit down and plan, but I'm also going to draw and do a colored picture every time and kind of paint the picture of what my day was like so I can trick my
Nice.
mind into it being, okay, I want to do this, not I'm being forced to do it.
I love that you bring that up because
Which
everyone is
oh,
really, really different.
so different.
Yeah, and that reminds. So what you're saying kind of reminds me of what I've been doing with a lot of my other coaching clients recently. Is I will have like a separate. It's not necessarily a session, but like a chat over. Well, what feasibly can you do at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Like if we're going to talk about energy techniques and things that you're going to be implementing,
Mm-hmm.
and incorporating that with the goals that you have for what we're doing, what feasibly can you do? And then we start really, really small, and then once it becomes much more of a just second nature, then we can tack on more things. And that's it's really like you were talking about atomic habits, the energy of habits, right? So I love that you bring that up because everyone's different. How they do it is going to be different. It's
Yes.
not one size fits all. So what kinds of things have you already tried, like implementing anything new so far? It's only a few days into the year, but is there anything that
Yeah,
you have
no,
been wanting to kind of either keep up with or something new?
for sure. So for me, I'm focusing a lot on my atomic habits. So my morning routine's getting a little bit tweaked. I'm
Mhm.
forcing myself to slow down in my morning routines because usually when I wake up, that's when I'm most connected. I'm going to the gym, my vibration's high. I want to start working by 5
Mhm.
freaking a.m. That is unnecessary and unhealthy. So
Okay.
my atomic habits in the morning, but also just implementing showing up when I don't want to. That will be the hardest hurdle for me, but just showing up even when I don't want to, because I'm a very emotionally driven person. So
Mhm.
even like today, I was triggered. I was on a high. I got triggered and I was like, I could stay in bed all day. But then I'm like, no, I'm in charge of my energy. I'm going to get up. I'm going to do my makeup. You like
Good.
it, guys? You like it? And I'm going to go kill the day and be in a good mood. So
Yeah,
I'm just learning to be in charge of my own energy.
I love it.
It's a lot.
Love it, love it, love it. No, that's excellent. Because we so especially too, we have to think about like our goals. And I on Instagram, I do follow a lot of either entrepreneurs, other entrepreneurs, like the infographics for success and things like that. And I notice very similar mentality across the board. And
Mm-hmm.
it boils down to discipline. Like that's my word.
Yes.
If you hear like picking a word for the year, discipline
Yes.
is mine, especially with, moving into my business, full time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it already feels full time, but like,
Mm-hmm.
once I release the other stuff. So it's this whole thing with just making sure that I know what I'm going to be doing when, and really compartmentalizing things so that way I can really tweak for success.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so the thing is, it's like by January 31st, like the stats on that are, they're pretty much the same every year. People fizzle out by the end of the month.
Yes, and it,
Hmm.
it hurts. It hurts my heart because I can see it. Right, I've been there. I understand that, and I think that's why we have to stop always thinking so big. Because in the big picture, yes, I want to show up, but in the little picture, how do I do that? What habits am I doing on a daily basis to be able to show up like that? And
Hmm.
that's where I feel like people just want to. Okay, I want to be that person. I'm going to go be that person, but then don't do the daily habits, the baby steps. They don't do the baby. You can't go from A to Z and think that's going to be
Yeah.
great. Um,
Hmm.
but what about you? I love digging into your mind. What are you thinking going into next year?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the year that I want to release all the weight that I basically packed on ever since moving here to Texas. And, people probably don't even realize it just because they always just see my
Yeah,
face.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, me too.
But, well, the fact that I used to do a lot of running, years ago, and I weighed probably, here's a vulnerable moment here, between 30 to 40 pounds less,
Mm-hmm.
when I was doing that. And then, just coming here, going through my whole healing journey, building a business, working
Mm-hmm.
full time at the same time, like that's basically been my past 5 years.
It's a lot.
And so I've let some other things kind of go to the wayside just because of my own healing and the things that I was learning and doing. And now it's totally different. I'm like, I need to amp up my game here, you know, and do the whole, and just be truly holistic with all of it, you know, so body included, and taking care, hey Ryan, taking care of the physical body. So I started fasting. It's not a pure water fast. It's one meal a day on the 27th. And so this is my 10th day, and I'm down 9 pounds. I feel fantastic. Like it's ridiculous, like how great I feel and my productivity. Do you remember that picture that I put of that freaking 1,000 piece puzzle?
Yeah.
I basically did that in 7.5 hours. Like,
oh shit,
that was, and I couldn't believe it. Like my brain was laser focused. So that's something that, and I've done fasts before, but never quite like this. And this has just been phenomenal. I feel great. So it's something that I'm going to keep doing until I release the weight, because I want to train for, you know, for running again.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
So what was your end goal of wanting to do that process, wanting to start this process, like to just feel good or to be able to run?
You know, to be honest, I wanted to get healthier. So I noticed over time, because being a nurse, I kind of like, I'm like taking a look at like just the physical energy. And I kind of worried about getting metabolic syndrome, which metabolic syndrome, for those of you who aren't familiar with that term, it's kind of like where your sugar starts going higher, your blood pressure starts elevating, you get more fatigued, you might be more prone to autoimmune stuff. Like, and I have like the triple threat in my family as far as like the genes, right? And I know that we have the ability to alter how our genes express, but the fact of the matter is, if I'm not physically paying attention to what I'm putting into my body or how much of it, I can be prone to all the same things that's in my family: diabetes, high blood pressure, stroke, cancer. Like I have all of them in my family. So the odds being kind of stacked against me, I was like, okay, I'm not like everybody else, but like this is something that I really, really need to do. And the thing is, after a while, after talking with my friend who had been doing the same thing, and she lost all her excess weight, she actually had gastric bypass surgery years ago, and she lost weight significantly from that, and then she started to get better, but she still had a little bit that she was carrying. All gone, just with doing the same thing. And so when I talked with her, I was like, you know what, I know too much about it to not do it. And so that's why I was like, okay, that's it. And I just made up my mind. It's like, so here's the thing, for those of you who are trying to think about like what it is that you want to be doing differently for this year. What is it that you want to improve? Once you make a decision, that's it.
It really is.
That's it.
It really is. There was something that said the answers are always simple. It's the action that's hard. Like the answer is always going to be simple. And like to what you said, me and my man, we've cut out sugars, and we're keeping track of how active we are each day, and our portion control's going down, but mostly the sugars was a really big deal for us. So, but it is the baby steps, and everything that you just said is just so important. I feel like, because if you guys pay attention, I'm a very pattern and theme kind of gal. Everything what she said was just connected to, like there was multiple layers to why this is starting. And it came down to, she wanted this lifestyle more than what she was living. And that's what she chose to do. And now this is who she is. And that happened within a span of, like you said, 10 days. And it's just like, it is a mind thing. You want it.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
And if you are hovering over a decision, then that's kind of where you need to ask yourself, okay, well, what is it that I'm really afraid of if I do this? Like, especially if you know that it's something that you need to be doing for yourself. Like we all know. See, here's the thing. We all know how we should be eating.
Yeah.
Or at least I would think so, right? We all know that we should be moving our bodies more. We all know
Yeah.
we should be sleeping more.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, okay, well, what is it that you're either afraid of missing out on, afraid of doing, if you actually just started to do it?
And you know what? Like we said earlier, be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
For example, when I got diagnosed with lupus, I went into like automatic like F lupus and F what I have to do for myself. So my changing had to change, not completely. I wasn't a sweet person, but because of my lupus, I started developing different cravings and my stuff changed. So I had to realize I'm not supposed to eat anything I was eating at all. I was supposed to eat like a rabbit. And so I did the complete opposite. I was so fearful of giving everything up that I started being obsessed with everything I wasn't supposed to have. And that actually got worse. And then sometimes you have to be honest with yourself and be like, you know what? I'm not ready to do it. I'm going to consciously choose to hit rock bottom. Then I'll make my decisions there. But you can't give yourself the excuse of, well, it got this bad because of XYZ, or I got diagnosed, blah blah blah. No, you made the choice to not help yourself. Therefore, you can't complain that you're at rock bottom. Now you have a choice again. What are you gonna do?
No, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that you bring that up. I mean, it really when you look at decisions, that is how we are paying with our currency of energy. Every decision that we make, we're either reinvesting it or it's depleting us. So, if you don't do the thing that you know that you should be doing, where is that energy actually being diverted to then? And then is it actually helping you? Is it coming back around to help you and amplify, your own field? So it's when you kind of look at it that way, something as simple as I should have that cookie or I should not have that cookie becomes actually a very powerful decision. Isn't that interesting?
I love that you actually bring up that example, because me and my man, we went to Jersey Mike's the other day and we messed up and we waited till we were starving to go get food. And that's usually when you make your worst decisions. And so for those of you out there who may be doing this by yourself, I highly suggest finding an accountability partner if you feel like you can't keep yourself accountable. Because my man got to the point where he was hungry, he was stressed, he reached for the cookie. And I looked at him, I was like, are you sure you want that cookie? I was like, are we going to consciously choose to pick up that cookie and pay for this cookie and eat the cookie? Do you need the cookie?
Yeah.
And he put it down. He didn't get the cookie.
Good.
But sometimes it's okay if you're not mentally where we're kind of, because sometimes we can kind of come off a little, remember when you were in the position back in the day where you're like, shut up, you guys are fucking annoying.
Yeah. Like kind of preachy, self-righteous, like that kind of thing. Yeah.
So we've been there, right? So if you're not here yet, find an accountability partner. There's always a way to help yourself.
Yeah. See, the thing is, it's not that you can't do things alone, but if you don't have to, then you don't have to.
Amen.
You know what I mean? Yes. So it's like, even with my fasting, I have a small support group that I formed as a result, and it's phenomenal.
Yes.
Like just every day encouraging each other and giving each other information that's like, oh, okay, I understand that now. I understand this about this type of food or that type of food and what it does to your body. Like it's something as simple as that is really, really important. So how do you kind of fit this in then with expectation? Like, how does expectation fall into this for you?
I feel like it's more of not looking at a goal for the full year. I think I'm not going to give myself the expectation that I have to be 100% every single day for the full year. I'm focusing on today and what it brings me today. So I think it's more of the expectation of I don't have to be perfect. That's how that plays out for me, because right now I'm going through just more of an internal journey. My
Mhm.
external stuff finally started calming down. So it's all about the expectations I give myself, where it's just like, it's okay if I'm not perfect. Does that make sense?
I like that. I like that.
I struggle with that. But how do you deal with expectations, or do you find expectations coming from the outside sources, inside sources, or when it comes to your goals?
You know what? With expectations, I there's so many things that I learned about the things that I expected from other people before. So now I kind of let a lot of that go. But as far as expectations for me, this is where the expectations are solely on me. They're not really even coming from the outside. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just getting support from the outside at this
Mm-hmm.
point. And my husband's totally supportive of what I'm doing too. He's actually like impressed that how much of a weight,
Yay!
and he's noticed the difference, right? So, and that's always encouraging. But for me, it's kind of going, okay, even though I know that I don't have to be perfect, am I giving it 100%?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
But your
yes,
100% can be different each day, and I feel like that's okay. I think that's
yes,
what I'm learning.
yes. And Elise says she can't do shoulds. And yeah, I totally agree with that. It really should be coming from a place of that resonates, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and if something resonates and that that this is what I need to be doing for myself, then like you mentioned earlier, continuing to show up
Mm-hmm.
for that aligned self, right? That says this is what needs to happen right now for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, but yeah, I totally agree, Elise. Shoulds. I don't like shitting all over yourself.
I like that.
Don't shit all over yourself.
That's
It's like,
funny.
or just you have to kind of go within and be like, okay, does this resonate with me at this time? Does this feel like this is the right
Yeah,
thing for me to do?
I think shoulds come down to accountability too. Like, are you
Yeah.
taking accountability for your life? There's no shoulds. Then why are we
Mhm.
even going back at that? Like, no,
Yeah.
learn from it, move forward.
Yeah. So, yeah. So expectations, I think it's more of like, okay, even though I don't like using that word as much anymore, I go back to that whole discipline part because there is like that a little bit of that should mentality in there, but
Mm-hmm.
it's more of, okay, I do have to show up for myself even if I really don't feel like it. I do have to
Mm-hmm.
show up for myself and tell myself no if if it's really a no right now. Like I have to hold out until this particular time when I'm going to be either eating or whatever the case may be. Like, for my example,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's that whole discipline, the self-control, right, for the long term. And that's really the hard part, especially when we don't see a lot of progress right away.
Okay, yes. And I think something just clicked for me. So for people,
Hmm.
expectations versus our high standards are different. You can live up to your standards on a daily, but still not meet those expectations. So I love that you said you don't even like that word anymore. So
Hmm.
it's just, I want you to start asking yourself, did you live up to your standard today? Period. Did you live up to your standard? Not your expectations, but just the basic standard
Hmm.
that you give yourself for a minimum basis kind
Yeah,
of a day.
for right now.
For,
Hmm.
for this moment, for what you can
Right.
handle right now. Because when we make goals and we do these things, a lot of the times we're doing it as your highest version of yourself. And sometimes you just can't show up as your highest version of yourself. You're going through stuff, you're experiencing things that may be heavy for you, and that's okay. But still hold yourself to a standard. And everyone's standards will be different. Mine
Hmm.
this year will be showing up at least 4 times a week, some in some way, in some capacity.
Hmm.
But for
Yeah.
you, have you had to adjust your standards for yourself through the years?
Oh my gosh, yes. Like this year is probably going to be the highest I've ever set my own bar. you know,
Same, Boo, and I'm
because
nervous.
because it's like because
Yes.
that's really the only way to continue to push yourself more and more out of your comfort zone once you've established certain things. right? And like for me, the first several years of my business, a lot of it was understanding even kind of what my niche was or my niche was,
Yes.
and then understanding how do I flex this with still working my other, my other job. And so there was a lot of different back and forth that I had to go through that I just could not do other things for myself that I really, because there was a lot that I had to work through. So now it's almost like this year for me feels like putting it all together, right? And getting into the routine that I'm going to be having from moving forward from now on. And that's why I'm like, oh my gosh, like this, it feels almost like a pinnacle. But that's the thing though, when you start small, you could just continue to raise the bar for yourself because there's no cap on your potential.
Something I realized, and I love that you said no cap on your potential. Yes, especially okay. So what I realized this year for me is I really walked into this year knowing and wanting that by the end of the year my life is going to look completely different, but not in a bad way, not in a way where it's like I'm learning, like it's just gonna look different, and I am ready for that journey. And if I could start going into most years like that, it's almost like you're tricking your brain also into accepting the change that's going to inevitably be happening anyways, whether it's you're in controller or not.
Yeah.
When have you had that shift, or when did that shift start happening for you? Because that just made me really excited. Like I don't know what's to come, but baby, let's come.
So I tend to have these visions of myself.
Yes.
Doing something in the future that for whatever reason, I don't know why it's there, but I anticipate doing this at some point, right? I visualize what I'm going to be wearing. I visualize what I'm going to be feeling like and the energy that I would be exuding. So it's like, well, and I'm a very visual person. So I do a lot of this anyway. And then what I noticed is, especially moving into this year, is like, if that's my vision, what am I not doing that's going to prevent me from getting there? And then that's what I really was kind of like, if I'm going to look like that person and be that person, I realized that there's certain things I'm not doing that's going to bring me there. And so I'm like, fuck it, do it. You know what I mean? Like this, what am I waiting for? If that's the vision I have in my head, I'm just going to prolong it. So that's why it's like, it comes down to what is it that you really want? Right? Like, so for example, when we're talking about, like the eating and exercise, like kind of started off the conversation with, what you really want because of those things is to feel better, have more energy, feel good about yourself, and, and wear whatever it is that you want, right? That's most people's thing, but it's the feeling of that. So it's kind of like, what are we doing to produce that feeling? And how does that compare to the feeling that you have right now? So it's like, if you are not matching that, then that means that you need to do something to actually feel like you're moving towards it. And then that's where we kind of get more of that self-confidence, more of that self-esteem starts to build up. And we're like, yeah, I'm heading towards that person. I'm catching up with her. Right?
Because you're in alignment. You're making yourself aligned to who that person is.
And next thing you know, you're it.
Yeah.
You're it. So it's the consistency, it's the discipline, it's the consistency, it's the, making those same decisions every single day of, this is what I'm going to do.
The smallest decision.
The smallest thing. I mean, even something as much as drinking water for fuck's sake, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I used to be starting off my days with like more coffee or, like a chai latte or something like that. And now I'm just like, okay, this is what I got to do, So so good. Yeah, I like that. The expectations and standards are different. So, and then I think you also mentioned something about like protecting our energy then. Moving into the new year.
Okay, guys. Protecting your energy. I got really passionate. My heart wants to explode. I feel there's so many of us, especially if you're on this path of the spirituality development. How do I say this? we really got to stand up for ourselves, that really is what it comes down to. And you have to put yourself first, and you have to set boundaries, and you have to protect your peace in whatever way that is for you, even if there are 100 people telling you different. And I think that's super important when you're going through any development, any goal that you have in mind. If you can't protect yourself or your peace, then how are you going to be able to protect the life that you want to create for yourself? So, Miss Rosalyn.
Boom. I like that.
How do you protect your peace on a daily basis? Because I know for me, I just started that process this past year and a half or so. So I'm still learning. Mine were boundaries. And I feel like that's kind of level one. People all should have boundaries, but I'm just learning those. Where are you at in that?
Yeah, my boundaries are I've been exercising that since probably 2015, and that was extraordinarily difficult. But it's gotten easier and easier, especially because I've surrounded myself more with people who are very similar in terms of what they do with their energy. They're very cognizant of it. And people who like to think outside of the box, and so around the people who I associate with, I haven't necessarily had to put up a lot of boundaries with that. My boundaries, I feel, have more have had to do with clients and not overextending myself. But if we're incorporating this with, the goals and intentions for this year, I'm very cautious about what I share and with whom, just because you don't, like you were mentioning, you don't want to have like the naysayers who can have a certain influence over what you're doing. And granted, there's not everyone, like going back to our example, with fasting, not everyone is going to do that. Not everyone necessarily understands it. Or they might have an opinion on it, but I'm not here to try to convince other people otherwise. I'm like, this is just what I'm doing, and this is what it's turning out. These are the results that I'm having, and so I always kind of go, well, whatever it is that I plan on doing, I'm going to draw or magnetize people who are going to support me.
Yeah, that's super important, especially when you want to be in a creative space to be able to kind of fulfill the goals that you're wanting to.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I mean by is like keeping your peace is like, are you able to focus on you and not feel guilty about it?
I'm much better at that now. It took me a long time, and probably
get beat up.
Yeah, I think I've felt that more last year more than any other time previously. So yeah, I think going into this year, I'm like, I have no problems. Like, if you don't agree, it doesn't matter. Go do your thing, the best to you. But like when it comes to protecting, I don't know. I find myself in a very different space where I don't necessarily feel like I'm as affected by what other people think as much. That's a big thing for me. I said that because really looking at it, I'm like, I haven't really had anyone who's not really that supportive.
So you
anymore.
Created your safe space.
Yeah.
Good job. That's good, because there may be like the people out there who are like, how do you even create a safe space? And a lot of it comes down to the people you hang around with. That's a huge impact on your day-to-day life.
Absolutely. Ryan says, I found boundaries were hard to create and became a habit to maintain at first. It's getting easier to maintain them the more and more my boundaries are pushed. Yes. And that's really the way to exercise them, is when they're tested. 100%. Because then you become aware of it, and then you become aware of, did I reinforce them or enforce them to begin with? And then you're gonna find that it just becomes more of a natural thing, because the more sensitive you are with your own energetic field, you're going to know when it's being infringed upon.
Yes. And it is a natural progression. And I like that you brought that up, Miss Ryan, because I have an example for that. And for those of you who have been with us for months now. We may
Mhm.
know I've went through some mommy issues last year. I get to say last year now, so it seems far away, but really the past year. And we had to go to Christmas together in the same house. And she did something that hurt my feelings, and guess what, I got to set a boundary, and I felt so much more powerful because of it. And I think that
Oh.
helped me switch my mindset into going into next year and being like, yeah, wait, I'm not hurt anymore. Wait, I'm not gonna I don't have to carry this anger or anything around anymore. So that's your
Yeah.
the way you take care of yourself has a direct reflection on how you're going to pursue your goals or achieve your goals in general. So I
Mhm.
love that you brought that up, Ryan, because I think that's important. I
Mhm.
still like it better when they're not pushed. I feel you on that. I feel you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just going to kind of get easier and easier over time.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan, you're going to be stepping into a space anyway where you're going to be putting your foot down a lot. So it's a good thing to be practicing it already. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
got this. You
It
got this.
feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good because you get to be like, I love me, and no one can fuck with that.
Mm-hmm.
You got it.
Exactly. That's when you're making any decisions to better yourself, improve yourself, ultimately that's going to be the end result. Because I always talk about how, a lot of us want to move into self-love, but it's really hard to do that unless we're doing the things that we need to do that's going to create a really great sense of self-respect and self-esteem. And that's doing all those small things, the showing up when we don't want to, the
Mm-hmm.
boundaries, the discipline, the self-control. When you can manage your energy in that way, you're going to be fucking unstoppable,
Unstoppable.
right?
But
Because no one can
yeah,
mess with you at that
no
point.
one.
It's like I know who I am, I know what I'm capable of. I know how to self-regulate and
Yeah,
self-monitor. That it's kind of like nothing can touch
yeah,
me.
nothing. It's like it is
Mhm.
what it is. So I'm gonna go have a good time anyways, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that, and it still goes into just how like New Year's resolutions and things, they don't always have to be so full on, so thinking in advance, because we have to start now. Right now is what
Mhm.
matters. So what can you do now to build upon to get to whatever the future is? But for so I have a question, because I know me and you are visual people, and my higher self comes to me. I don't necessarily know what she's doing sometimes. I can see the vibe she carries. I don't know what the hell she's doing. For those out there who can't see their higher self or don't have that communication, what would you advise them to maybe start to get sparks of who they're supposed to be or what their goals are?
Do you mean like getting how would I get in touch with my higher self, or
I guess
what
it's more like, I
specifically?
don't like, for me, I if I didn't have this higher self, I don't know if I would have future goals for myself like that.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I don't think I would have known myself well enough to be like, okay, I see her, I know what she's doing, so I can work towards that. But if you don't know yourself and you're not getting these, because I think mine are more visions. They come to me versus me
Mhm.
connecting, if that makes sense.
Got it. Yeah. So usually I would ask, well, what really sparked your interest? What really kind of lit your fire as a child?
Ooh, that's
Because when we
good.
were children, we were much more connected to our higher self. That's why it was so easy to spout off, "Oh, I'm going to be this," or "I want to do this." And even though that may not end up being what you ended up doing, but it's because you knew, like, yeah, I like that. I think I can do that.
Yes.
So when we were younger, we always felt like we felt potential in everything. And so if you're not quite sure what kind of goals to set now, or what really lights your fire or anything like that, what did you enjoy as a child?
That's
And you
awesome.
could start there, because it doesn't necessarily have to be the same exact thing, but something that feels very similar to that.
Mhm.
And, because as children are, they're pure, and just unadulterated. So it's kind of like you have just this pure, innocent, high vibe energy. And that's what you kind of really want to tap into again. And
That's good.
because that's when everything was fun, everything was
Yep.
play.
Yep.
Right. And then we
That's
get older, we get jaded, and we get away from the play, but we can still play using our creative energy.
Love that. And that's exactly right. You got to start from the foundation. What were you when you got here?
Yep.
Gotta love spirit. The development is crazy. The human journey is nuts, but we'll get into that in different time. Focusing on this year, Jazmine. So, do you feel anything when it comes to energy about this upcoming year? Like, what do you feel?
I feel a lot of people who are on their awakening journey making extraordinary leaps in their path. I really feel that. I see a lot of people really questioning just everything, their life and their direction and what it is that they want in their life. And I see a lot of people really detoxing a lot of stuff out. Like there's a lot of people who have been purging from last year, and it's continuing to happen. And
I can see a lot of that.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot more people that all of us can really connect with, to be able to support each other, moving into this year, as whatever other crazy stuff happens. But really use your energy to focus on the things that are relevant to you and that are going to build you up. Okay. So even if there's more crazy stuff going on in the world, really monitor how much energy that you're giving attention to that. Still create, because if everyone's creating from a place of highest good, which ultimately is what happens when we create because we want to make ourselves better and have a better effect on other people, that's the consciousness that's going to pervade. And all that other crazy stuff that's out there is going to end up being much more minuscule. I see people experiencing so many different realities, and we're all living in the same place. But there's people who are flourishing right now, and that does not have to be just the few people on Earth, right?
Yes.
That could be any one of us. Is just really a choice.
Truly. It truly is, which is the hard part, because then you gotta be the one to make that choice.
Yeah.
So good luck with that. Give yourself some grace, okay?
Yep.
Patience is key. And I like, again, what she said earlier too, is it is a natural progression. Just allow yourself to flow and grow and nurture yourself, take care of yourself. And I kind of agree with the 2022 thing too. I think a lot of self-awareness this year, and a lot of purging is the best way to put it. Purging is the best way to put it.
Purging. Because you really can't create or feel like you're moving towards something new when you're carrying all that excess weight, all that excess energetic weight.
They just drop down. For those of you who are going to be guiding these people through these awakenings, make sure you're taking care of yourselves. Specifically, for some reason, they just drop down salt baths. I am not a salt bath person, so just keep that in your mind.
Yeah.
I feel like it's gonna be a wave.
That's a purifier too. It's
that energy.
Yeah, the salt is a purifier.
Oh, that's interesting, because the past week I've noticed when I'm walking around the treadmill, I'm starting to move my hands, but around my freaking chakras and around my aura energy. So I'm naturally starting to cleanse my own energy. So if I'm naturally starting to do that, I feel like purging.
I like that. When you are working out, you can do that. There's a lot of times if I'm lifting, I will imagine. See, here's this is the practice of it, y'all. When you're working with your own energy, when I'm lifting and releasing and I'm exhaling, I also envision my field around me and clearing it out as I'm doing it. it's like I'm throwing stuff literally out of my field, whether that's other people's stuff or my own. So there's a lot of different ways to clear your energy, but when you are intentional about it in your everyday things that you're doing, you could be keeping a really clean and clear field all day long. So when I'm working out, I imagine a lot of stuff just releasing as I'm going.
That's what I
So
do too.
I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome
Yeah.
you do that. Ryan says, okay, more about baths. I'm going to attempt to sit in the tub for more than 7 minutes. You can just breathe into it. You'll be fine. Yeah.
That was for you, Ryan. Literally, I'm like, why are they showing me salt baths?
Yeah.
They are screaming, ma'am.
And that'll be good too, because for magnesium, also, if you are feeling down, for anyone else who's listening, if you are feeling down, get into a salt bath. That's going to actually lift your spirits because of the magnesium. So what do you have going on right now? Like anything else? I know. So talk about your live that you're going to be doing next week.
For some reason, I thought it was August already. So January 11th, I will be going live with Miss Lorelai. We are going to do 2022 readings, and she's going to do past life readings. And I'm really, really freaking excited. So make sure you're going to Akasha Flicks. Obviously, follow me on my Facebook because I go live there all the time as well. And I have this lovely woman interviewed me, and it's on TikTok and on my Instagram. So go to my Instagram stories and check that out. Okay. What about you? What's going on in your world?
Fantastic. So starting Monday evening is the beginning of my next 4-week energy clearing program with 3 energetic clearings per week for a total of 12.
Oh, that's nice.
It's all in a variety of different subjects. So we're talking relationships, health, career, business, money, and your future, your self-image. All of that stuff will be incorporated. So if you participate, I will be attuning to your energy for the whole entire group too. So I'll be doing a clearing there. And I have a coupon code. So check my previous post, 22 Empower for $20 off. And also I will be, if you're in the DFW area, I will be at the Health Collective January 26th at 5:00 doing a presentation on the basics of energy and doing an energy clearing free energy clearing for who's there. So it's all detoxing energetically is basically what I'm going to be talking about. So if you need info on that, if you need info on that, message me. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining and being awesome, bringing your awesome energy. And this video, I think, Jazmine, you shared it. So the video is here if you need to catch any other bits and pieces. All right.
Bye.
So, okay, we'll talk to y'all later. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, guys.